Welcome back to the 21 Convention 2018 of Orlando, Florida. Our next speaker is the best-selling author of No More Mr. Nice Guy. He's also been a marriage and family therapist for over 30 years. And in my opinion, he is one of the godfathers of the manosphere. Without further ado, please help me welcome Dr. Robert Glover to the stage. Thanks, sir. Kick some butt.
All right, you really can't see anything up here with the lights. I can see this row right here. Good looking guys. Anthony, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to be honest with you guys. When Anthony contacted me a few months ago about speaking at this program, I'd never heard of it, didn't know what it was about, did a little research, looked really good, thought, yeah, sure. It's guys. I love being with guys. I love speaking with guys. And as I kind of, looked at it a little bit more, I thought, well, is this a red pill convention? I know what red pill is, but really have never identified as red pill. Is it a pickup convention? I mean, I'm familiar with pickup, but I've never really identified with pickup. But just being here, this is just guys. The speakers on this lineup, I mean, have they blown you guys away? Phew. Man, Anthony, what a good job. This morning I'm listening to Donovan Sharp. I'm thinking that fucker stole my speech and he did it better than I could have done it. Then Dr. Sean Smith gets up here and tells you guys what a kind man I am. Now, he said he's not a nice guy, but he's kind. Where are you, Sean? Fuck you. You're kinder than I am. He and I went and got a burger last night. We didn't know each other until we met just a day or so ago. And he picked up the tab. He's kinder than I am. All right? But thank you for teeing up this talk. As I said, I didn't really know what to expect coming here. I got an email from somebody who's familiar with my stuff. And he said, Dr. Glover, he said, aren't you kind of worried that going and speaking at this convention might tarnish your good reputation? And I thought to myself, he doesn't know me. He doesn't know that I don't need any help tarnishing my reputation. I can do it well enough on my own. And I was thinking yesterday about my talk. I've been thinking about it, for 2 weeks. And the hard part is leaving out stuff, right? And Anthony should have given me 8 hours. I don't know why he didn't. Then I wouldn't have so much stress about what do I talk about and not talk about. But I was thinking yesterday afternoon, I need to check in with Anthony about kind of the policy about profanity. They said this is going to be a TED talk type talk. And after hearing Anthony's keynote last night, he raised the bar so fucking high on profanity. I'm not worried about it. I say fuck a lot. I'm pretty selective with my swearing. Fuck's my go-to word. So you'll hear that quite a bit. I think for me, the most fulfilling thing about being here, the speeches have been great, being around men. But you may have noticed I kind of go out and sit out in the foyer, out in the lobby in between sessions, just looking around and watching. And when Anthony said that perhaps he considers me a godfather of the manosphere. And I've just kind of begun to sink in over the last 6 to 12 months for me, is that what I wrote and put out about 15 years ago is, I know the royalty checks keep getting bigger every year, so the book's selling. Let me just see a show of hands. How many people have read No More Mr. Nice Guy? Yeah. Dan. Yeah. When I wrote the book, it took me about 7 years to write it, about 3 years to find a publisher. And a lot of publishing companies, the editors, and many of them women, said, we like the book, but our marketing department says men will not buy a self-help book. I'm pretty sure that attitude has changed in the publishing industry, because how many of you have downloaded or bought at least 3 books in the last 6 months? Yeah, every fucking one of you, right? Men buy books. Men are part of the economy. We make a difference. And I'm grateful for every one of you that have bought the book, that have told somebody else about it, who told somebody else about it. And I got to thinking, while talking to so many of you at breakfast and lunch and during breaks, that perhaps for many of you, No More Mr. Nice Guy, the book, is like the gateway drug into red pill. Right? That many of you find the book first, and then you keep digging and you keep looking, and thank goodness there's stuff out there nowadays. When I started my recovery process, really all there was Robert Bly and Iron John, Michael Meade. You could go out in the woods and beat a drum and hold a stick and say ho, and that's good stuff, but that's really about all there was. Now I get interview requests. I do several a month of guys with podcasts. That are coaching men who have websites. We got Red Pill, we got Pickup. There is just so much stuff out there aimed at men. That's why we're here, right? And when I went on my book tour 15 years ago for No More Mr. Nice Guy, two interesting things. One is, I think my publisher, Barnes & Noble, thought that there would be blowback from feminists. I think they're hoping for it, actually, stir up some controversy, some noise. That hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. And I'm going to tell you one reason, and not that, feminists have ignored it or anything like that, but here's something. I found, I don't do marriage and family therapy anymore, but I did for many years. I now just work with men. I've got an online university. I do workshops and seminars. I write. I'm going to tell you more about that in a minute. But when I was in therapy sessions with couples, I would always start with the man. You got to hit the man upside the head with the stick first. If you hit the woman upside the head with the stick first, she'll leave therapy and never come back. Okay? So I'd start with the man. And I would talk to them about showing up, being conscious, being present, setting the tone and taking the lead, having a plan, having a life, all the things we're talking about here, right? Being a high-value man to lead in that relationship. And almost without fail, the women would turn to their husbands, kind of, go like that to their man and go, I like this guy. He understands women. And the guys are going, you mean you want me to stand up to you, dear? And the women are going, of course I do. I don't want to be married to a wimp. I don't want to be with a guy I can walk all over. I want a man. Right? When I talk about this, when I fly on airplanes, I'm sitting next to people and they often ask what I do, that kind of thing. I flew first class red eye to get here the other morning, and I had a young 30-something woman next to me. So what are you going to Orlando for? And I told her, I'm speaking at a men's convention on boldness in the era of Me Too. Then they're curious. What are you talking about? And I tell them. And I've never had a woman go ballistic on me when I talk about what I teach men. In fact, what women usually tell me is one of two things. All the things that, I talk about, setting the tone, taking the lead, being conscious, being present, having a great cake of a life, inviting a great woman to be the icing on the cake, not the cake. And women go, there's guys like that out there that know this stuff? And they'll say, can I come wait in your parking lot after your seminars to meet these guys? Can you put up a website with these guys' profiles that have taken your stuff? I'm not lying to you guys. I'm not lying to you. The women of the world are hungry and thirsty for this stuff. Now, I'm going to also warn you, guys, don't talk with the women you meet or the women in your life about red pill. Kind of like the rule about Fight Club. Don't talk about it. Don't talk about No More Mr. Nice Guy. They're not interested. But it doesn't mean they won't follow when you lead, when you apply these principles. Right? Everything you've heard this weekend, go live that stuff. You don't have to talk about it to women. They're really not interested. But they are interested in you living that way. Okay? Make sense? The second thing, when I went on my book tour 15 years ago, reporters often ask me, do you see a men's movement arising similar to the women's movement, feminism of the 60s and 70s? And there's a reason why I don't pick stocks or horses or gamble in Vegas. I'm shitty at it. There's a reason why I don't even pick the line at Costco. Which one's going to go the quickest? I'm shitty at guessing this stuff. But I said, no, I don't really think so. Really for two reasons. One is I don't believe there's one unifying cause that's going to bring men together worldwide. And the second reason I said I don't think it will happen is I believe, I said at that time, that I believe the parts about feminism that actually worked and changed and made a difference was because of men. It was because good men recognized where there was indeed inequality or things needed to be changed. And it was good men that changed the system. All right? It is good men that change the world to make it better. And I said, I don't know that you're going to enlist a bunch of women to the cause of men for whatever men are wanting to change. Now, fast forward 15 years later, with hindsight, I was wrong. I was right and I was wrong. But now everywhere I go, I see gatherings of men. And whether it's in embodiment, energetic, David Dangerfield, whether it's red pill, whether it's pickup, whether it's men going to divorce groups, whether it's going to Mankind Project, it doesn't matter. And I've come to the conclusion that there is a worldwide men's movement. Not around one thing. We're all coming to it from different directions. But here is what I believe, is that we as men are looking for a tribe. We grew up in tribes. 1.5 million years of our evolution was spent in tribes. And for about the last 10,000 years, when we got into an agrarian society, started living more alone, and for the closer we get to where we are right now, the more alone and isolated we men have gotten. We're looking, even if we don't know it, we're looking for a tribe. We think maybe we're just looking for some help after going through a divorce. Or we think maybe we're just looking for help to learn how to approach women and talk to them. Or we think we're just looking for some help to do this. But what we're looking for is tribe and initiation. And that's what this is. When I was listening, especially to Donovan this morning, what he was talking about was masculine initiation. When we show up and create and turn ourselves into high-value men to attract high-value women, and then continue to practice those principles that got us there long after we found that high-value woman, to keep that high-value woman interested, that is our masculine initiation. Now, we have others, but that is a powerful one. And there's this reciprocal, process going on there. As we raise our game, we're going to attract better women. And as we attract better women, and we got this great woman in our life, we got to keep raising our game. And hopefully let me ask a question. A couple questions. And again, I can't see everybody's hands, but I can see a few. How many men in here hate women? I don't see one hand. Okay, so we get to rule this out that this is a women haters convention. Okay? That's ruled out. Nobody raised their hand. How many men here at times in their life or right now have had rage at women? Yeah, I have. When I was writing drafts of No More Mr. Nice Guy and handing them out to people gave me a lot of really good feedback. And one that I kept hearing was, sounds like you have rage at women. I thought, oh, that's bleeding through. I thought to myself, but it's just run-of-the-mill rage at women. I thought everybody had rage at women. Every woman I've ever known had rage at women, right? So, but that doesn't serve us. It's not going to move us forward. So, how many people love women? How many people would love to have an amazing woman blessing your life? How many of you are willing to show up in such a way to set the tone and take the lead to create the healthiest relationship possible to bless both your life and her life? That sound like a plan? Okay. That's our masculine initiation. That is going to grow us the fuck up. And we're going to keep growing the fuck up until the day we die. The questions I get asked most, like I said, I'm going to talk with you guys about something kind of funky in just a minute. Something that I haven't really put out there on a very big scale. You guys are going to be my guinea pigs. But a couple questions that I typically get asked, so I'll address them. One question is, well, how did I write No More Mr. Nice Guy? And the second question is, what do I have going on now? Where am I going? As I said, when I started my own, what I now call my nice guy recovery, I didn't call it that when I first started. I called it, my wife told me I had to go to therapy to find out why I was so passive aggressive with her. And I'm thinking, I'm going to therapy to find out why being such a nice guy doesn't make her treat me better. Right? I was blue pill before blue pill existed. Right? And some of you around my age, you probably, you were too. Before there was anything out there that said, hey, that shit doesn't work very well, 24/7 trying to please a woman and make her happy. That is what I was doing. And she looking back on it now, I was married 14 years, but she was borderline personality. We went to shitloads of therapy, couples group, individual. I went to men's groups. And she calculated one time that probably we'd spent $100,000 on therapy together. I now tell people that's probably about $85,000 too much to figure out the marriage wasn't going to work. She was the wrong woman that Sean was talking about. But she was a big stick upside my head. I'm here today talking to you because of her. Many of you are here today because of my ex-wife, Elizabeth. Okay? I'm grateful. I'm grateful for every big stick that's hit me upside the head. So I went to therapy to find out why my being a nice guy didn't make her treat me better and didn't make her want to have more sex with me and appreciate me and all that. Luckily, I got into a 12-step group where I started, just being real and being honest and authentic. I got into with good therapists who taught me about boundaries, who taught me about making my needs a priority. I had a woman therapist tell me, I mentioned about how my wife would drone on talking about shit and how bored I got. And then I would try to either fix it or change the subject or, and then she'd get pissed off. And this woman told me, well, you don't have to listen. I said, what? Yes, you do. That's carved in stone. When a woman wants to talk about problems, you have to listen to her talk about her problems until she's done talking about her problems. And she said, no, you don't. That was liberating. I still remember that moment of a woman therapist saying, I don't have to sit and listen to a woman talk about her problems until she's done talking about her problems. In fact, guys, I'm going to give you a theorem. I think this is a theorem, axiom, I don't know. Rule of thumb. There's a direct inverse relationship between the amount of time a man spends listening to a woman talk about her problems and the likelihood he's going to get laid by her. Now, I'm a marriage therapist. I'm all about communication, but I'm not all about sitting, listening, talk to a woman talk about her problems. That's not me setting the tone and leading. It's loving to say, hey, you want me to be your man, right? Sure. Okay, I'm your man. Give me the guy version. Give me the guy version. I want to hear, but I don't want the girl version. Give me the guy version. Set the tone. So I started learning good stuff. And then what I noticed in my couples counseling is that a lot of couples coming to me, guys with their girlfriends or wives, and the guys were saying the exact same thing I'd been saying and thinking. I'm a nice guy. I treat her well. I'm better than her ex. I'm raising her kids. I give her everything she wants. I bought her the Ford Explorer, but it didn't have leather seats, and she still wasn't happy. I told my wife that, my current wife that, not too long ago, and she just jokes about that all the time, about the Ford Explorer, but didn't have leather seats. She gets it. She gets it. And so these guys were saying, when's it going to be my turn? It's never good enough. She's never happy. She never wants to have sex anymore. So I thought, there's guys out there just like me who have the same paradigm, the same roadmap, that if I'm just a nice guy, just do it well enough, give women everything they want, they'll like me, love me, and want to be with me, and want to have sex with me all the time. Now, everybody in this room has already figured out that paradigm does not work. It does not work. But these other guys were just like me. So I started No More Mr. Nice Guy men's group. We met every other Wednesday. I just started writing, giving stuff to people. And the guys and their girlfriends and wives all said, you need to write a book. Here it is. You need to write a book. You need to go on Oprah. And, I did write the book. I've never been on Oprah. But it took about 6 to 7 years to write the book. Another 3 years just to find a publisher that would publish it. So that's how the book came about. I didn't set out to write a book. I just set out I was just writing stuff that I was figuring out as I went. Because there wasn't anything out there back then. There wasn't even the internet back then. If it was, I think you had to know code to get on the internet. So nowadays, man, we've got so many resources, so many good things going on. And I'm thrilled every one of you is here. And I'm going to echo the demands and command you've been hearing. Go live this stuff. Go practice this stuff. Not so you can get a woman, not with no attachment to outcome. Go live it because it's the right, integrated, authentic way to live your life. Live your life on your terms. You set the tone and take the lead. One thing that I tell guys all the time is that a woman can't follow where a man doesn't lead. And if you don't lead, they'll jump into the driver's seat and take control. It's how they're wired. All right? Give them the choice. Give them the option. Okay, so that's how I came to write the book, and it's why a lot of you are here. And after sessions later on today, I welcome you guys coming up and talking to me. I love it. It just feeds my soul to know that I've contributed something that's making men's lives better and making the world a better place. I mean, it just thrills me to my soul. Thank you for every one of you for that. Second thing, what am I working on? I almost died about 9 months ago. About this time last year, I started noticing something wasn't right. It was subtle at first. I'd been traveling a lot, doing some conferences and workshops and seminars, and oddly enough, what I noticed is that I'd done a workshop up in Edmonton, Canada. I was watching a World Series game in my hotel room afterwards. We'd gone to dinner after, and I was starting to eat a piece of cheesecake, and I couldn't get it in. There's like no room for cheesecake. That's not possible. I couldn't get it in. I just was so full, nothing would go in. I know that sounds weird, but then over the next few weeks, I got more and more, started having stomach spasms, stomach cramps, couldn't eat much. If I did, it wouldn't go down, or I might vomit it up, or couldn't shit. Just nothing was working. And over a period of about 3 months, into this last January of this year, I lost over 30 pounds. Just couldn't eat. And I had no energy. I was taking 2 or 3 naps a day. It was just killing me. And I didn't know what. I went to doctors in Mexico, went to doctors in the United States, got misdiagnosed, undiagnosed. Nobody could find what was wrong. Kind of the best guess was I had some Mexican bug that I needed to outlast. And then finally, bless her heart and my wife, man, she tried so many things to try to find out what was wrong. She went to pick up my stepson at a friend's house and told the mother, "Oh, we want to have you guys over for dinner sometime, but my husband's been sick." And she said, "Oh, I'm a doctor. What's wrong?" And she told her my symptoms. She said, "Oh, my husband's a gastroenterologist." And my wife says, "Can he get my husband in?" So I went in the next morning, looked at all my tests. He said, "I'm going to run a tomography. This is digital x-ray." Put me in this big donut. And then that afternoon, they said, "We think you've got a polyp or something in your small intestine. Why don't you come back tomorrow? We're going to put dye in your arm, do another shot." And then that afternoon, he says, "You've got a tumor blocking your small intestine, and it's probably about to rupture. You need to have surgery now." I'm thinking, okay, Mexican doctor, Mexican hospital, going to cut me open, take out part of my small intestine. Okay, let's do it. I was totally at peace. It's like I'd surrendered. I didn't know if this was going to kill me. I didn't know if I was going to live the rest of my life, however long, in that emaciated state. Okay, let's do it. I said, give me one day. You know, I had to make sure somebody knew what all my bank accounts were, what all my passwords were, you know, where everything was stashed. Luckily, no porno stashes to erase. And went in, had surgery, woke up. I'm still under anesthesia, looking at the ceiling and go, I'm fucking alive and I'm back. My mind was clear. It's like I could see more vividly. Colors were brighter. And I laid in my hospital bed that night, kind of rearranging my life. All right? I don't know how much time I got left. By the way, you guys don't either. I don't know how much time I got left. I joined a men's program that started right after that, went and did the Mankind Project, New Warrior Weekend. How many people have done that? Just a few of you. Do you guys recommend it? Great initiation. I recommend it. Just look up Mankind Project or New Warrior Adventure. It's a great initiation for men. I did that, got in this men's group, And really, both of those processes focused on what is my mission? And Mankind Project, the first question they asked me as I walked up to the door, what is your mission? Can you guys answer that question? Okay, you need to. You need to. I tell you what, almost fucking dying brings that into really clear, you got to answer this question. Okay, so to answer what am I doing, where am I going? My impossible goal, which I actually believe I will achieve, is to write 10 books in 10 years. That's what I'm working on. And I think if I'm still alive 10 years from now, I'll probably have 10 more books I want to write. I've got a whiteboard in my office that has all the subjects of at least 10, 12 books on it. So that's what I'm working on. Just finished up a book on dating essentials that is just all the materials from my old dating essentials courses that I've taught for over 10 years. And I'm now working on a book that has the working title of Shut Up and Fuck Me. And that is... That's coming from real life experience. It's something we're going to talk about in just a little bit. Now, if that is not enthusiastic consent, I don't know what is. And I've had more than one woman tell me that. Right? Would you just quit talking? Fuck me. Do it. Do me now. Okay? So when I sent the proposal to my agent about a year ago, and he's this old experienced New York Jew that believed in no more Mr. Nice Guy, and he's reaping nice royalty benefits, percentages from that as well. He wrote back and said, you just made my holiday season. I said, I love the title for the book. So that's the working title, Shut Up and Fuck Me. I haven't told my mother the title yet. She keeps pestering me to write another book. She gets my mail and deposits my royalty checks. And every time she puts like 13 grand in the bank, she goes, Bobby, you need to write another book. I said, yes, I know, Mom. I know, Mom. So that's what I'm working on now. Okay. Weird stuff. You guys want to talk about weird stuff? Freaky stuff. This is freaky stuff. It really is. You guys want to be my guinea pigs? All right, you up for it? Okay. I'll kind of use the kind of the launching point of boldness in the era of Me Too as a way to get to this freaky stuff. First of all, I want to tell you guys a silly story. You guys like silly stories? Biblical silly story? For those of you that are not aware, in a previous lifetime, I was a minister in a fundamental denomination for 8 years. I have 2 degrees in religion. Grew up in the fundamental church. I'm not religious now. As my mother reminded me about 3 weeks ago in a text message, Buddha did not die for my sins. I tried to explain, Mom, I'm not a Christian and I'm not a Buddhist either. But anyway, it's a whole other story. Moms are great. Moms are great. Okay, that just got me totally off subject. Silly story. All right. God's walking through the cool of the Garden of Eden on the 7th day after creating the universe, the earth, man and woman in 6 days. And as he walks through the garden, Adam and Eve are resting in the shade of a fruit tree. And he walks up to them and he says, Adam, Eve, I've got 2 more gifts that I need to hand out. One for each of you. God said, the first gift is the ability to pee standing up. Adam jumps up, that's mine. I want that one. Okay, Adam, you get to pee standing up. Second gift is multiple orgasms. Gentlemen, I hate it when people call me gentlemen, but gentlemen, this silly story contains both the subject of what I want to talk about and the moral of what I want to talk about. The subject is multiple orgasms and things along those lines. The moral is, and I think this is important that we get this, the moral is most of the issues we men have with women and sex are historically of our own making. I think this is important to get because until we can take accountability for what isn't working in our life, nothing's going to change. Okay? So historically, most of the problems we men have had with women and sex are of our own making. And it really isn't that the fundamental theme of Red Pill? You want something to be different, you got to do something different. Right? We get what we get because that's what we settled for. Okay, the freaky stuff. Dr. Smith was talking this morning about evolutionary psychology, and like I said, he and I went and had a hamburger last night, and I ran this freaky stuff by him, and I didn't even know that was kind of his gig, the David Buss and the whole evolutionary psychology. And this is not actually my field of study. I'm just one of those kind of people that if I see something, I think, why is that? What's that about? How did this come to be? Any of the rest of you like that? You got this wheel spinning all the time trying to figure shit out? Okay. That's you? Yeah, well, I think everybody in this room is trying to figure shit out. All right. So here's the thing. I did a radio interview, actually a podcast interview a couple weeks ago, and the interviewer asked me, he said, do you think the influence of the Me Too movement is having an effect on men, especially young men, in terms of being bold? Bold in terms of just how they live their life, but especially in regards to women. And I said, yeah, I expect that is really true. In fact, I'm going to be talking about something along those lines in just a couple of weeks at this conference. And my personal experience, I was born in 1955. I'm 62 years old. I became a teenager in the 60s and 70s. And that was, the heyday of, is that what we call it, second wave feminism? It probably had some good messages in there. Everybody deserves equal pay for equal jobs and equal opportunity. But it was the noise that caught my attention. And the noise was from the radical, men-hating feminist part of that. And I was only, 15, 16 years old. And I'd already been raised by my mother to be different from my father. I mean, she told me that as a boy. She was raising me to be different from my father. She's actually since apologized for that. I grew up in this fundamental church that, sex is bad, sinful, and evil, so save it for the one you love. I'm not making that part up, guys. I told you I'm going to be honest with you. And then I become a teenager, and all of a sudden, these female creatures look really interesting, right? And I thought, how am I going to get one? I wasn't the quarterback on the football team. I didn't drive a Camaro. I wasn't rich. Wasn't great looking. Kind of introverted. And I thought, I'll be their friends. I'll be the nice guy. I'll be the guy that listens to them talk about Chad. Right? We all remember Chad. And how badly Chad. And then this radical feminism came along. And, I'm hearing stuff like, every man is a rapist. An erection is a sign of aggression. And just, all the vibe around that. And I soaked that in. I internalized it. I thought, okay, I developed some pretty strong, what I now call self-limiting beliefs about sex, women, myself, and the world. And those beliefs primarily were, women don't like sex. Women think men who want sex are bad. Women just aren't attracted to me. Women just don't want to have sex with me. And those were my guiding beliefs as I then went out to interact with women. And those guiding beliefs led to my first two marriages that lasted 25 years together. And I shouldn't have dated either woman more than 3 dates. And I stayed with them for 25 years. Now, when I got out of my second marriage 15 years ago, right at the time the book was being published, I'd done a lot of work on me. I'd grown a lot. I didn't know as much as I know now, but I'd grown quite a bit. And I no longer was interacting with women the same way. I no longer thought women hated sex and thought men were pervs if they wanted to have sex with them. So quite a bit had changed. And I got out there into the dating world, and I made a conscious decision. I didn't want to repeat what I already had. And I'd already written my book, so I already kind of had, a handle on a few things, or at least understood a few things. And I decided I'm going to work at being a better picker and a better ender. And by the way, being a bad picker when it comes to meeting women and dating is just part of the equation. we're going to pick a lot of wrong women. You don't know that till after you've spent a little time with them, for a lot of them. You know, and I just love the things that Dr. Smith talked about this morning for recognizing those wrong women. Okay, but being a good ender can cover a multitude of sins for being a bad picker. Keep that in mind. I believe perhaps the number one key of all successful men in any area of life is knowing how to be a good ender. Is knowing when to cut your losses. Is knowing when to say this isn't going to work. Is knowing to say this is crazy, I'm out of here. We got to practice being good enders. Okay? So I went out and started practicing that. So what happened is I started meeting women. And I've never been into pickup. And what I found out is I didn't have to be. Women started coming to me. Rich, what's the term that he uses about the abundance? Chasing excellence, but he has another one. I wrote it down on another piece of paper. I don't have it in front of me. It'll come back to me. The abundance of something, of choice. Spoiled by choice. I love that. And you know what? For the first time in my life, I was spoiled by choice. Women were coming on to me. They were hitting on me. They were sending me strong signals of interest. They were propositioning me. They were getting naked on first and second dates without me even pushing for anything. And I'm thinking, what planet have I landed on? This is not the planet that I thought existed. And now keep in mind, I was in my late 40s, balding, graying, low T. I wasn't in the best shape. I was actually going through a bankruptcy at the time. So it's not like I had, all the things we think that turns women on, organically like that. And they were coming on to me. Now, the big difference, and I think if I had to just sum up the differences, number one, I challenged my self-limiting beliefs. I wasn't walking the planet thinking women didn't like sex. Number two, I was bold. I was living life on my terms. Fuck this, I'm getting divorced. I'm going to live my life my way. That's attractive to women. And the third thing was I walked through open doors. And I think that's actually one of the biggest failings that a lot of guys have, whether in any area of life, is we don't walk through the open doors. Let me ask you guys a question. Whenever I go to men's programs like this, I watch. I watch the men, but I watch the people around the men. Have you guys noticed after being in here and you leave and go to a restaurant or you walk down the street or in the hotel lobby, have you noticed people checking you out? Has anybody noticed? Okay. Now, if your self-limiting belief is, it's like angry feminists, it's a gathering of men, we got to be careful, you're not going to see what I see. What I see is that women are turned on by groups of energized men. I see that whenever I do men's programs. The other day, I did a workshop in Seattle. We went to eat lunch in a restaurant, 11 of us. And the waitress is coming by taking our orders. And she asked the question, they always ask, who are you guys? What are you about? And I told her, well, we're a group of men. It's a self-improvement workshop and blah, blah, blah. And then she asked a little more, and I told her about my book, and she said, I need to get a copy of that for my boyfriend. When I walked to the restaurant the other night for the group meal, I was a little bit later than a bunch of you. I was with a couple of other guys. As we walked in, women at two different tables in the restaurant looked up, saw us, and pointed to the back where all the other men had gone. Now, interpret that however you want, but I interpret it, they were paying attention to energized men walking by, and it made a fucking impression on them. I've seen it out here in the hotel lobby. Two different women as I walk by, they look up, I make eye contact, they maintain it, I hold it, and walk on. The people in this hotel are fucking energized by your presence here. Now, this is a message that I think a lot of times we men don't get and don't realize. But this is what all the messages are about. When you create this kind of energetic lifestyle by bonding with men, doing your work, being bold, women notice that and it fucking turns them on. Okay, the weird freaky stuff. That clock says I've got 20 minutes left. Freaky stuff. And I'm going to give you time for Q&A. The freaky stuff. I got out there. I'm spoiled by choice. Right? Women are wanting me. First time in my life. And it's like, this is crazy. Okay, I want to throw this out to you guys. And it may sound crazy. Some of you may have already figured this out. I think some of you have. When I shared it with Sean last night at dinner, I said, you see any holes in it? He goes, no, not that I see. Now maybe he's had time to think about it and he sees some holes. But think about this for a minute. Because this goes against most of our self-limiting beliefs about women. It goes against what evolutionary psychology is telling us, but it seems to be true. So I want to share it with you. There's a really unique thing about females of the human race. They, as far as I can tell, are one of maybe two, maybe three species of all animals, reptiles, birds, fish, that have sex out of season. That have sex for reasons other than procreation. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that boggles my mind. Every other fucking living thing on this planet only mates when it is mating for procreation. Females of the human race fuck for fun and pleasure. Not just because they're in estrus or they're ovulating or they're wanting to procreate. Now, that blows me away. What blows me away is that's not talked about more. I'm sure it's been studied, but I just don't come across a lot about it. So let me expand on this, okay? Women are wired to fuck for fun. I believe women are wired to have more sex, more often, with more partners, and enjoy it more than a man. Now, a lot of guys go, that's not my experience. You know, I'm the one wanting sex all the time, not her, right? I've been there. 14 years of marriage, we'd go every 6 months without sex, and when we had it, it was all on her terms. Okay? Women are wired to have more sex, more often, with more partners, and enjoy it more than men. All right? I believe women get more physical pleasure out of sex than we men do. We get our dick release, and okay, we're done. No, they get full body. I don't think we can even conceive of what a woman really experiences when she is fucked well. Okay? That's our job, guys, by the way. Women can climax and do it all over again. Can you? Some of you 18-year-olds, maybe. 62-year-olds, no. I can't even remember a day that might have happened. Women can fuck for hours. Average guy, 5-10 minutes, we're good. Okay? Women, go back to the multiple orgasms, women can have multiple orgasms. Men? Well, I know you can go get trained on having multiple orgasms and having orgasms without release, blah, 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 blah. They're wired to do this shit. You know, we got to take courses and work hard to learn how to have kind of a multiple orgasm. The average woman has 4, 5, or 6 trigger points on her body that can simulate orgasm. How many of you guys got? You know of one, you touch it a lot. No, your eyes will not do it. Your eyes won't do it. I remember Psychology 101. I went to a Christian college. First day of Psychology 101 class, the professor holds up a $20 bill and he said, I will give $20 to any man that can will himself to have an erection. Nobody collected that $20 bill. Okay. I've known women who could will themselves to have orgasms. Women can build their orgasms. They can extend them. They can do all kinds of shit. We come and we're done and go to sleep. They're wired very differently than us. I've known women, I've been with women just licking their nipples, they'd climax. Right? They're wired so amazingly different. And even as I'm talking about this stuff, I'm thinking, this is not the view I've had of women for the majority of my life. But it's true. All right? Now, another question. Going back to our self-limiting beliefs. If women don't seem to like sex, as many of us believe, or they think men who want sex are bad, why have every religion, every major religion in the Western world, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, worked so hard to repress female sexuality if they don't like to fuck? Why is there such an emphasis on virginity? Why do we stone them if they fuck around? I know what you're thinking. I'm going to get to it in a minute. Why do we stone them if they fuck around? Why do we put scarlet letters on their forehead? Why do we drape them in burqas from head to toe so men will not be turned on by them? Why has slut shaming existed for so long? Now, most of these I'm going to blame on men. The slut shaming, I'm going to put that at the feet of women. Most men, if you hear a woman's a slut, we think, cool, want to meet her. But, you guys know what I'm talking about. You're with a woman. Another woman walks by, tight, short stuff, maybe, fake boobs. And the woman you're with goes, they're fake, you know that. And you go, yeah. What's your point? Yeah. I still like looking at them. But they're fake. She's a cheater. Yeah. What's your point? Right? So it's the women that pile on with the slut shaming. Now, I'm going to get to the costly sex thing in a minute that Dr. Smith brought up. Here's a few proofs. For those of you who are just, your mind's going, no, I just won't come in. It's like the red pill, right? By the way, I had this experience when I was laying my clothes out this afternoon for my talk. I put my clothes on the bed, and I thought, I think I'll take a decongestant before I go on. So I pulled out a Sudafed, tossed it on my shirt on the bed, and looked over, and what was on my shirt? A red pill. Blew my fucking mind. Okay. If women didn't like sex, why is a shitty book like 50 Shades of Grey sold 95 million copies? I'm going to reference Dr. Smith again. He was talking about the Count of Monte Cristo this morning. How many people have read that book? It should be required reading. So people had recommended it to me. So I actually set out and I was reading on my Kindle 50 Shades of Grey and the Count of Monte Cristo at the same time. And I would read one chapter of one chapter of the other, one chapter of one chapter of the other. I couldn't wait to get through the chapters of 50 Shades of Grey because it is sucky writing and it's not even titillating. Just to get back to the Count of Monte Cristo. It's that good of a book, isn't it? Those of you that have read it, good book. Okay. But why is it sold 95 million copies if women don't like sex? This is mid-October. There's a holiday coming soon at the end of this month. What's the holiday? Halloween. All right. What? Yeah, I already hear it. What are 85% of the women going to dress up as at their Halloween parties? Slut, slutty nurse, slutty doctor, slutty cop, slutty fireman, slutty pilot, slutty slut. But they don't like sex. It's costly for them. Something's wrong. Okay? Okay, here's the clincher. If you don't believe me, I'm going to put you in a hotel room in this hotel. And you get to pick the 10 sexiest women that you can imagine. Put in an order for 10 sexy women. That just turn you on. Make you drool. Make your tongue hang out. And you have to ejaculate in these 10 women. How long is it going to take you? About 10 days. That's the camp I'm in as well. The first 3, I could probably get done in a weekend. After that, they're all going to be fucking work, right? And each one's going to take about 2 to 3 days more before I want. So some of you younger guys, 10 the hottest women, how long is it going to take you? 10 hours. No, that's a lie. That's a lie. 3 to 5 days. You think you can do that because maybe you jerk off enough that you think, I can do it. No, you can't. Maybe if you're young, 3 days. Guys like me, 2 weeks. Okay? All right. Put a woman in a hotel room and tell her she got to pick 10 of the sexiest men that she can pick. This is a woman who's okay with, likes sex, right? And how long is it going to take her to come 10 times with those 10 men?
10 minutes.
That's a little over optimistic. Hour or 2 is realistic. Hour or 2. To come 10 times. Okay. And they're not wired different than us? Okay. I want to do Q&A, so I'm going to have to pull this together pretty quick. Okay, I got a couple theories, right? Because we think, okay, but evolutionary psychology says women have to be choosy, sex is costly, they only have so many eggs, they could die in childbirth, they got to raise the kids, blah, 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 blah. They only got to pick the alphas, the good genes, the provider protector. Have you noticed women pick shitty men to have sex with? I don't buy into that whole theory that they're fucking choosy. They pick bad men. They pick men in prison. They pick drug addicts to have sex with. They're not fucking choosy. So here's my theory. I think the evolutionary psychologists have been studying the wrong group. And not just fruit flies. They're the wrong group. For 1.5 million years, we had a tribal existence. And in that tribal existence, everything was communal. Everything was shared. And there's good evidence, so was the sex. That every man and woman had access. This is the reason why we're not wired for monogamy, is why long-term exclusive monogamous relationships are so hard, why they tend to not work. It's not in our DNA. And my belief is where we get it wrong, is we start studying the last 10,000 years. There's an ownership model where men started growing stuff, owning stuff, their trees, their cows, their wives, their kids, and all of a sudden we had to start regulating female sexuality. We're studying the wrong group. My belief is that what's really wired deeply into women is to want to be fucked often and well by a good man. I really believe that. Okay? This is our job, by the way. So, my two theories is, why does that not look like it nowadays? Why is that not our experience? I think number one is our self-limiting beliefs. Number two, we're not bold. The women in the tribe hung out with hunters and warriors. Men that got shit done. That is the most powerful aphrodisiac for women. That boldness, that strength, that confidence. I'm not talking about bodybuilders. My wife points out women who are coming on to me all the time. I used to just think because she's a jealous Latina, and I started actually looking. She's right. Women usually, my wife's 22 years younger than me. Most of the women that are coming on to me are 30 years younger than me. And I'm not a specimen, okay? But I do live life on my terms. I tell guys, if you interact with a woman with confidence, she has experienced the exact same brain chemicals that you would experience if she lifted her shirt and showed you her tits. That is the truth. You don't have to think about it. You see tits, you have to think, do I like them? Do I want to look at them? It's fucking wired into you. The same is true for the women. When they see boldness and confidence, warriors, hunters, it turns them on. It's wired into them. So as Dawn was talking, if you look like a basketball, if you're sitting in your mother's basement playing World of Warcraft for hours, if you don't interact, if you have no social skills, there's nothing to turn the women on. And then you think, well, women are bitches because they don't like me. No, they want to be fucked. Okay? All right, so my second theory is why don't we see this nowadays? My theory is primarily because I think when women were being fucked by the tribe, one reason they make so much noise is because they're being fucked well. One guy gets done, rolls off, tags out, and another man comes in. Mother Nature loves lots of cocks and lots of vaginas. That is the number one morality of Mother Nature. Penises in vaginas, lots of them. Okay, we fast forward, we're in this agrarian society. We got our one wife, and she wants that variety of the tribe, and we're having our male ego gets in the way. We're kind of mopeds sexually. Women are sexual Ferraris, and so we got to put a lid on their sexuality because I think it triggered our ego, and it triggered our fear that they're going to go fuck around on us. But I think another thing that came in is that if you fuck a woman well, tell me if you've had this experience. By the way, every woman I've had sex with since my divorce 15 years ago has wanted more sex than me. And that's actually triggered anxiety in me. I found myself avoiding sex. Does that make any logical sense? How many have had that experience that you're with a woman who wants to fuck so often, you're thinking, no, not tonight. I just want to get some sleep. My wife would be happy to fuck me 2 to 3 times a day, and we often do. If I don't fuck her for a day or two, she thinks I'm cheating on her because I haven't fucked her in a day. She's told me, I will never tell you no for sex. Even if I'm angry at you. She says, because I'm never angry at your cock. Now, you'd think I've died and gone to heaven. There are times I'm away from home for 2 weeks right now. I'm just loving every moment. I can sleep alone, But it overwhelms us. So I think the other reason we men have tried to repress the female sexuality is we can't get any shit done when the woman's in that sexual cloud of desire, that feminine cloud of desire, wanting it all the time. So I think we've also unconsciously worked to shut it down so we can just go get shit done, right? So we can go kill the beast, so we can go hang out with our bros, so we can, just relax. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up with it. I got so much more stuff, but I'm about out of time. And I want to give some Q&A. I think we got about 5 to 6 minutes before we got the hard stop. So I'm going to just stop with that. I've just put out some stuff with you. Like I said, you're my guinea pigs, and feel free to approach me later. Share me your point of views. So thank you for being my guinea pigs, for listening, and go out and be fucking bold, okay?
All right, we got any questions? We got about 5-8 minutes for questions.
Yeah, I have a question. Do you have any actual stats on that? Now, I get it that women love sex.
Stats on what?
Like sexual partners, because it would seem then that the women would have a lot of sexual partners in today's day if they're very sexually motivated.
Hasn't every speaker this weekend talked about women cheating? Okay, that's my stats. It's real life experience. Women tend to want lots of sexual partners. They're wired for it. Now, they've also they have been forced into a costly system to where it is costly for them to do that. They're told that they're sluts if they want to have sex. They're shamed. If they become a single mom, they have shame attached. It really has become costly in modern day for women to have sex. But do I have statistics on what? That women want to fuck a lot of men? No, I have experience. Yeah, if you guys ask me like intellectual type questions, like about statistics and studies and research, I'm going to tell you next. Ask me a question about life and applying this shit, okay?
Question, comment. You mentioned the Mankind Project a couple times during your speech. I live in Austin. The Mankind Project is completely blue pill there.
Okay, that's not my subject. Yeah. Different question.
So what can we do to start a more red pill?
That's your observation of blue pill. Yeah. Of mankind. It wasn't my observation of it. Do they preach red pill philosophy? Not that I know of. And is every group different? Probably. All I'm talking about is, guys, go find a tribe. Find ways to connect with men. Well, you find there's faults with this gathering. There's going to be faults with every gathering. Okay? Gather with men anyway. Okay? Over here.
Hi, how are you? Thank you very much. You mentioned therapy and you're a therapist, and I talked about it earlier as well. Is there, and I think sometimes in this sort of corner, talk therapy for men gets poo-pooed a little bit. Do you have any advice for people who actually need to seek therapy? How would you coach them in trying to identify and meet up with somebody that was going to give them good results?
Well, especially guys will ask me that question who have read my book. And I would say, number one, talk to other men and find out if anybody knows of other resources. It can be kind of a stab in the dark, but take my book with you. Ask the counselor, therapist, if they're willing to read it, because you need assistance with that. But here's the deal. Or go to my website. I've got certified counselors and therapists that have trained with me. And even if they can't work with you, they can point you in the direction they can. My website is drglover.com. So yeah, like I said, people say, should you go to a man or a woman? I got good therapy from a woman. She liked men. She was supportive of men. And, for a guy that thought women hated men, that was good therapy for me. Okay, another question. Okay, here.
Thank you, Dr. Glover. How would you advise a lot of the younger men in the room regarding broaching a lot of the principles we've been talking about here with our mostly blue pill fathers?
with our blue pill fathers. Chew. Somebody asked a similar question this morning about with your blue pill friends. Give them my book, give them Rational Male. Say, Dad, I've been reading this stuff. Would you like to read it? I get the same questions. Like women will ask me, well, how should I broach the subject of nice guy stuff with my husband or boyfriend? I say, just give them the fucking book. This isn't rocket science, right? Just put it in front of people and they'll respond to it or they won't. But let go of all attachment to outcome. Don't try to get anybody to buy into your belief system, right? Just live it. Living it, it's just the most powerful thing you can do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Glover, let's give it up. Thank you.
George Bruno with the 21 Report in Orlando, Florida. And we're talking with Dr. Robert Glover. He was just whisked off stage, and now we're going to talk to him about his message for men. Welcome.
Good to be here, George.
What is your impression of the 21 convention here so far? You've been around here.
It's blown me away. I've been to lots of men's programs. Man, to have several hundred men in one place, first-class production. The speakers, man, I'm sitting there listening to them, and I'm one of the speakers, and I'm going, these guys are good.
Yeah.
And I'm just watching the men just soak it up, and they're alive, and they're energized, and it's I had no idea what to expect coming here.
Yeah.
And it's just blown me away.
Yeah, it's learning by immersion. There's a lot going on here, right?
A lot of moving parts, and
Yeah.
you guys have been apparently practicing this every year, and
Yeah.
this year it seems to have really gone to another level.
It gets better and better every year, yeah. When I was in graduate school, someone said to me once, I complained that there was 13 textbooks for one class. And I said, how the hell can I possibly do this reading? And they said, it's the European method of education. And I said, what's that? And they said, if you throw enough shit against the wall, something's going to stick.
Yeah.
So that's what I feel this conference is like. They're just putting so much out there, but if one or two things stick with the attendees, it was worth it, because there is a lot of information. It's rapid fire just all day long.
It is, and I've got my notebook, and with every speaker, I've written down about 2 or 3 lines under each of the speakers of just the key prime stuff. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Got to remember that.
Yeah, that's good.
And even referenced several of them in my talk as well today. I'm a guy, and I live this stuff. This isn't just academic. It isn't just a book I wrote.
Right.
It's my life. I'm married. I have kids, stepkids. I have a job. I'm in the world.
Yeah.
And this stuff's real life stuff. And there's a lot of stuff sticking to the wall.
Yeah. I've heard it said, I'm not sure who actually coined the phrase, but the 21 convention and this movement is nothing but men sharing notes.
Good way to put it.
I like that.
That's what I was doing, just making notes and deciding how many of these notes can I share with them in an hour.
You know, a year from now or 2 years from now, someone's going to approach you. They will have seen you live here. They will have seen this interview, listened to your podcast, and a change is going to have been made in their life, and they're going to say, it's because of you. The ripple effect of your data, of your information, of your inspiration. And of course, all of our messages are a combination of education, data, facts, and inspiration. How do you inspire men?
The message that I get back from men is that I'm real. I'm authentic. Now, I would not have been accused of that 30 years ago. I hid everything. I was a people pleaser. I was a nice guy. And I think that's the greatest compliment people give me is that Dr. Glover, you're real. You're authentic. You tell the truth. You live this stuff.
Yeah.
You talk about your struggles. I'm bumbling my way through life like everybody else. And I try to learn as I go, and that's what I share. And I think people really appreciate that it's not like I'm some academic that read it in a book or I've figured it all out and I've got it all, my life is just perfect. I still work at this stuff every day.
Yeah.
And I think people, men especially, like knowing, this guy's practicing what he preaches. He doesn't get it perfect, but when he falls down, he gets up and tries something new.
What does it mean? Your book is titled No More Mr. Nice Guy. Is there a nice guy syndrome or a nice guy profile?
Well, I do talk about the nice guy syndrome in the book. And basically, just the short version of a nice guy is he's internalized beliefs at a very young age, usually in childhood, usually 3, 4, 5 months old this stuff begins. Internalizing a belief, there's something wrong with me, I'm not okay just as I am. I have to become what I think other people want me to be approved of, to get loved, to get my needs met, and I have to hide the things about me that might trigger a negative reaction in other people. Of course, this is usually parents at a young age, and the most common things that nice guys hide is their needs and their sexuality. And so if you imagine then growing up to be an adult, trying to do whatever it takes to get the approval of everybody around you, and hiding everything about you that might trigger a negative reaction, it leads to a very frustrating lifestyle. And that in a nutshell is nice guy syndrome.
What are the downfalls of being a nice guy?
Well, the first chapter in the book is all about that. Nice guy is actually a misnomer. Nice guys are often anything but nice. Even though we think, and I always thought, I'm a nice guy. I'm one of the nicest people you ever want to meet. Why wouldn't everybody like me? Why wouldn't everybody want to be, the same? But because a nice guy is not fundamentally authentic. He's not being himself. He's fundamentally a lie. He's lying about everything. If he's trying to become, if I try to become what you want me to be so you approve of me, I'm lying. If I try to become what you want me to be, I'm lying. There's no truth there. You can't count on anything. Now, beyond the fact that we're not authentic, and everything we do, in a sense, is a lie because we're trying to get approval, we're hiding things. The other part is because we're not good at getting our needs met, we're not good at letting people give to us, we're not good at surrounding ourselves with people and organizations that can give to us, we tend to build up a lot of resentment. It's like, I give all this and I don't get much back in return. That resentment builds, and we kind of start ruminating about it, and then it either comes out as passive-aggressive behavior, which is indirect anger, maybe a put down, a jab, I'll say I'm going to do it and I don't follow through on it. Or the other is what I call a victim puke, where it just builds and it builds and it builds until we just blow up and we just say everything that's been ruminating in our brain, and it's usually hurtful and damaging to everybody involved. So these are ways that nice guys tend to not be nice. My ex-wife, who I was married to when I wrote the book, used to say, I'd rather be with an asshole, because at least the asshole, I know he's going to treat me bad all the time. You treat me well, and everybody thinks you're an amazing guy, but then you do this thing to stab me in the back or hurt me or you blow up at me, and I didn't even know you were even bothered by that until you blow up 6 months after the fact. So those are some of the ways that nice guys, unfortunately, are not always so nice.
Very interesting. I worked for many years with top models, many who have become gray, silver, and white hair models, many of the faces that you would recognize. But for years, they would color their hair until the point where they ditched the dye. And when you ask them why they stopped coloring their hair, one of the answers that was common right across the board, it's almost as if they were sharing notes, they would say, I wanted to find my authentic self. So for decades, when they were coloring their hair, they were feeling not authentic. You mentioned being an authentic man. How does a man become authentic? And is there peace in authenticity?
Is there peace in it? Yes. And there's turmoil. I've got a tattoo on my arm of Jesus nailed to a cross. He was authentic, so they say, and he still got nailed to a cross. So, it can attract stuff.
Yeah.
The term from psychology would be differentiation. When a person is differentiated, they're authentic. And I tell guys I work with, being differentiated has two parts to it. The first part is asking yourself, what do I want? What feels right to me? What am I going to do? And you've got to ask yourself that. Most of the time we're lemmings. We go along with the crowd. We do what we think's expected of us. But to be able to ask yourself, what do I want? What feels right to me? That's the first step of being differentiated. The second step is then following through on that and proceeding Even if you get flack from outside, mom, dad, friends, society, church, culture, or the buzz inside your head that's, oh no, I'm gonna get in trouble, I'm gonna be disliked, I'm gonna lose my job, I'm gonna lose my wife. So the differentiation, to be authentic, you've got to be able to ask yourself, what's right for me? And then number two, you got to follow through on that. Is there peace in that? Yeah, because you're not all the time guessing and trying to figure things out and covering this lie and trying to think of, how do I need to be with this person and blah, blah, blah. And, as I said, it can attract some negative attention as well. It always happens. Every great man who's ever lived who was authentic and integrated and differentiated also caught flack. It just comes with the territory.
Let me ask you this. What is the prescription for this nice guy syndrome?
For overcoming it, working through it, or what causes it?
Getting rid of it, overcoming it, being healed from it.
Okay, good question. I've told people for years I'm a recovering nice guy, and I'm still working at it. I got married again 2 years ago. It's my third marriage. I thought I'd worked through a lot of the stuff that tends to come up for me in a relationship, and then with a new person, with new personalities and their stuff, I got triggered into some of my nice guy patterns all over again of being too much of a pleaser and a problem solver and avoiding conflict. I watched it come up, and I thought, man, it's like I need to go read my book all over again. And so I went out and got a men's coach. I joined a men's group. The stuff that I prescribe in the book is don't try to do this alone. And it's like we're going to work on this stuff to the day we die. Now, things get better, better, better. My life's amazing. I love my life. I could not have had the life I have now 30 years ago. It would not have been possible because I live my life on my terms. I tell people I live in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. I have a beautiful home. It's got a swimming pool. I've got a beautiful wife. She's 22 years younger than me. She wants to have sex all the time. And guys will say, "You're so lucky." And I'll go, no luck involved. This was hard work. This was a conscious process. Now, it's not like that was my dream to create all of that, but it is what has come to me by doing the work of living authentically with differentiation, being honest, making my needs a priority, having good boundaries, and just living a life of passion.
There have been common themes all week long. Do the work, be the best version of yourself,
Right.
make a dent in the universe. How can a man be the best version of himself?
I think the number one prescription I'd give a man to answer that question is go connect with other men who have the same philosophy, who are working on and it doesn't even matter. During my speech, I gave a few different suggestions of where you could find men's programs. They're different, they have different philosophies, but they're about men wanting to evolve. Now, it's not about becoming a different person, and it's really not even about becoming a better person. It's about becoming the best you, right? To live up to your capabilities, your potential. And I'm 62 years old, and I'm still challenging myself. I've got a commitment, a goal to write 10 books in 10 years. And I mean, at 62, my dad retired at 55. He wasn't interested in being his best self. He was just interested in, okay, I've done that for 30 years, I'm done. I don't know where I'm going to be in 20 years, but I think it'll still be a pretty interesting life.
Who is your ideal client or ideal subscriber, follower, fan? Who do you speak to the most?
Wow, I don't know if I've ever been asked exactly that question. It really is people, and I've heard this a lot at this convention, especially when people find the red pill material. Usually they've had trauma. Something's happened. Now, I find that the men that tend to come to me, either they find my book or they come to a group or a workshop, it's usually they're at some point of frustration, often in relationship. Either they can't get a girlfriend, they don't know how to be with women, how to get a woman to be with them. Maybe they've just had a breakup, a girlfriend, the end of a marriage, or they're out there maybe in their 40s and 50s, out there in the dating world all over again. So it's funny that most of the time it is around relationship, one way or another. Women drive us crazy. We're still trying to figure them out, but that's why I say don't try to figure them out. Set the tone and lead and see if they follow. So for me, I think the ideal guy is one who recognizes the tools in my toolbox have not been sufficient. I've tried to follow the rules. I followed the prescriptions of my family or my church or my culture, and it just isn't working. And they're ready for something else. They're ready to have new tools added to their toolboxes. They're ready to be challenged. They're ready to get out of their comfort zone. And for me, again, I'll say it again, it's that willingness to connect with other men. And I find that if we can connect with men, our ancestors, our human race evolved in tribes, and now we're also isolated. And I spoke on that this afternoon. We're looking for tribes. So find tribe, connect with men, and then let those men challenge you as you challenge them. Those are the guys I love working with.
I used to say I was an expert at parenting until I had kids. And that challenged everything. And then I found out that I was winging it. And then I had a moment, and I don't know when that was, where I took, some men's organizations call it the father wound. Guys typically have something that they hold against their father.
Sure.
And then that gets erased when you have this aha moment of, holy crap, my dad was winging it too. And then all of a sudden, we forgive our fathers, and at that moment, he goes from father to friend, and the relationship changes. Can you speak on that?
I had that experience as well. My mother raised my brother and I to be different from our father. Now, she stayed married to him until he passed away about 9 years ago. And she's since apologized for that. That was not a healthy thing to do to her sons, to say, you need to be different from your dad because he's angry and he's selfish and he's self-centered and he doesn't treat me well. And I bought into her view of my dad. Now, my dad had problems. He had some kind of mood disorder. He could be up and down. He could be in a bad mood for weeks. But I'm also really grateful for my dad. He took me fishing. We went camping. He since I was a kid, one of my earliest memories is like at 5 years old, my first hardball bat and hardball, him pitching to me in the front yard and me hitting it through my parents' bedroom window. So he came to all my ball practices. He was encouraging of that. And so he had his flaws. He was winging it. He was the baby of his family. His oldest brother was 20 years older than him. So he had no guidebook. And I went through a stage of being hurt and resentful at both my parents. I didn't talk to my mom and dad for 15 years. And after a period of time, it's funny, I read an article about baseball. It was the beginning of the baseball season. And there's like some articles in the local paper. And my dad taught me to play baseball, took me to baseball games. And I thought, I've loved baseball all my life. And I wrote him a letter. I don't know if it's an email or a letter. I can't remember now. It's been about 10 years ago or more. And I just thanked him. I said, Dad, I just want to let you know I'm grateful for these things you gave my life. They blessed my life. And about 6 months later, he got back in touch with me. And he only lived like 20 minutes away from me. And he and I started getting together about once or twice a year, really, not very often. We'd go have coffee, have a donut, we'd talk. And I came to the conclusion, and this was so liberating, to realize he was a flawed, broken human being. He was operating at his peak level, and this was all I was going to get from him. This was who he was. And it's like I just made peace with that, that, okay, he wasn't perfect. He was operating at his own peak level. Okay. And there's something about forgiving your dads that helps you forgive yourself as well. And then lets you say, okay, I can be a flawed male as well. I don't have to be perfect, don't have to get it right, don't have to be different from Dad or different from all the other men out there. So that was liberating for me to just have peace. And then he had a stroke and passed away about 2 or 3 years after I'd begun that. I was in his hospital room, his hospice room, every day for about 2 weeks. And I'd kiss him on the cheek. I mean, he was in a coma. I'd just say, thank you, Dad. I just thanked him, and emotions coming up about that. It was a blessing to have made that peace and be grateful for everything he'd given me.
Better late than never.
Yeah.
Can you imagine living life and not having been able to do that with your father?
I'm so grateful that I reached out and said, thank you, Dad, for this.
That's powerful.
And then we had whatever we could have.
Yeah.
Like I said, we reached the limits of what he was capable of. And to be there at his bedside every day and with my mom, watching him die, and just being grateful.
Talking with hundreds of men in my career, I've noticed this one thing. Everyone changes. Doesn't matter who they are, what level of education they are. When they start talking about their father, their face changes. Everything
You've
changes
noticed
when we
that.
talk about our dads.
Yeah.
Even
I
when
can
I
feel
interview
it.
people about their dads, my face changes and,
Yeah.
and things change.
I feel it. I can feel just, the wetness in my
Yeah.
eye coming
Yeah.
up. And he was a flawed, imperfect. I spoke at his memorial. I was the only one of 4 kids that spoke.
Yeah.
The first words I said is that at best, my father could be difficult. Everybody said amen.
Yeah.
None of my siblings wanted to speak.
Yeah.
But I was at peace with it, and that felt good.
That's neat. That's neat. George Bruno from the 21 Report talking with Dr. Robert Glover. How can people find you?
Easy enough. My website's drglover.com. That's drglover.com. And if they just want to Google Robert Glover or Google No More Mr. Nice Guy, I've got the top several spots on both of those pages. So
That's
easy
fantastic.
enough.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, George. It was great.
What was your experience so far with the 21 convention?
Oh, outstanding, outstanding. Professional, all across the board.
Really good energy with a lot of people, and I just like it because it's a very positive direction.
This, George, this has been a first-class event.
It's fantastic. You guys run a really tight ship. I've been to a lot of conventions over the course of my business career, and I can tell when things are well run and when things aren't, and this is a very well-run operation. I was very impressed.
It's pretty incredible to see where Anthony's brought it, especially from last year, which was my first year here, and to see the upgrades he's made, it's been incredible.
I've got my notebook, and with every speaker, I've written down about 2 or 3 lines under each of the speakers of just the key prime stuff. That's good. That's good.
It's very surreal, man. I'm really enjoying it. I'm happy to live in such an era where such a thing like this is possible.
I have never seen a group of guys like this, a group of 200 men who are focused, squared away, they're working on their values, just never met a bigger group of wonderful guys.
It's kind of neat because I've been to a fair amount of conventions in my day, but you never see one where the guys like here you can just see Ed Lattimore talking to Tanner about boxing.
Yeah.
You just sit down and then you tell your boxing experiences. Everybody's kind of pinging off each other. It's nice.
It has been fantastic. And it's been 4 days of guys all on the same page, working in the same direction.
Fascinating meeting some of the people, hearing their stories. You got people traveling from other parts of the world to come here just to see some of the speakers. That's amazing.
The thing that's impressed me is everybody here is very serious.
Yeah.
They're taking it close to their heart.
What a great convention.
Thanks, George.